The war room deep inside the Zephyrian command ship fell silent. Admiral Kethver stood before the massive viewing screen, his forearms crossed behind his back. The blue glow from the screen lit up his gray face, showing deep lines of worry. Around him, his officers waited for orders they hoped would never come. "Admiral," said Commander Vexta, her voice barely above a whisper, "the Earth fleet has taken another system. The humans are only 50 light-years away now." Kethver's eyes closed slowly. 50 years ago, when they first discovered the humans, Earth was just a small blue planet with strange creatures that had barely learned to fly between their continents. Now these same creatures controlled half the galaxy. They spread like fire, building colonies on every world they could find. Worse. Yet they were good at it. "How many ships do they have now?" Kethver asked. "Over 10,000, sir, maybe more. They build them faster than we can count." The Admiral turned away from the screen. His empire had ruled this part of space for 3,000 years. The Zephyrians were proud, ancient, and powerful. They had the best weapons, the strongest ships, and the most advanced technology. At least they used to. "Sir," another officer spoke up, "what about the weapon? The Cascade bomb?" Kethver's head lifted. Yes, the weapon. 5 years of work by their best scientists. A bomb that could break apart the very atoms of everything it touched. They had tested it on empty moons and watched entire worlds turn to dust. It was their greatest creation and their last hope. "Prepare it," Kethver said. His voice was tired but firm. "Set course for Earth?" 3 decks below, in the most secure part of the ship, teams of Zephyrian scientists made final checks on their quantum cascade bomb. The device looked simple from the outside, a smooth metal sphere about the size of a small room. But inside were systems so complex that only 12 beings in the entire empire truly understood how it worked. Dr. Yelenox ran his scanner over the bomb's surface one more time. Everything looked perfect. The quantum field generators were stable. The exotic matter core was properly contained. The cascade triggers were armed and ready. "Beautiful work," he said to his assistant. "When this reaches Earth, it will spread across their planet like a wave. Every atom will forget how to stay together. In minutes, their whole world will become space dust." His assistant nodded but looked uncomfortable. "Doctor, is there no other way?" "The humans have never actually attacked us directly." Dr. Yelenox looked up sharply. "They don't need to attack us, you fool. They simply exist. Every day they grow stronger. Every day they take more space. Soon there will be no room left for anyone else." He patted the smooth surface of the bomb. "This will end it before it goes too far." The bomb was loaded onto a special ship designed for one purpose: to carry the weapon to Earth and launch it from a safe distance. The ship was fast but not heavily armed. It didn't need to fight. It just needed to get close enough to Earth to release the bomb and let physics do the rest. Captain Zekemer checked his instruments as his ship left the command vessel. Behind him, the bomb sat in its launch tube, quiet and waiting. The trip to Earth would take 3 years at maximum speed. 3 years to cross the space between the Zephyrian Empire and the human homeworld. "Course set for Earth," his pilot reported. "Estimated arrival in 36 months. "Good," Zekemer said. "Let's finish this." The ship jumped to faster-than-light speed and disappeared into the darkness between stars. For the first 6 months, everything went perfectly. The ship's systems ran smoothly, and the bomb remained stable in its containment field. Captain Zekemer sent regular reports back to the Empire. Though by now the messages took weeks to reach home, then the problems started. It began small. A micrometeorite, no bigger than a grain of sand, struck the ship's hull at incredible speed. The shields deflected most impacts, but this one hit at just the wrong angle. It punched through 3 layers of armor and damaged a power relay. "Repair teams to Section 7, Zekemer announced over the ship's communication system. His crew fixed the damage quickly, but the captain frowned as he read the damage report. They were flying through a region of space filled with old star fragments and debris. More impacts were likely, he was right. Over the next year, the ship took dozens of hits. Each one was small, but they added up. Power systems failed and were repaired. Hull plating cracked and was welded back together. Navigation. Sensors were damaged and replaced. The worst problem came 18 months into the journey. A chunk of ice the size of a person's fist slammed into the ship's side. The impact sent shock waves through the entire vessel, and alarms began ringing throughout the ship. "Captain," his engineer called out, "we have a breach in the bomb containment area." Ziegmer's blood went cold. He ran through the corridors to the secure section where the weapon was stored. Emergency lights flashed red, and he could hear the hiss of escaping atmosphere. The bomb itself looked undamaged, but the systems around it were a mess. Cables hung from the ceiling, sparking with electrical discharge. Several control panels had been smashed by flying debris. Coolant leaked from broken pipes, forming puddles on the floor. "How bad is it?" Ziegmer asked his chief engineer. The engineer studied his readings carefully before answering. "Sir, the containment field is still working, but the quantum stabilizers are offline. The exotic matter core is starting to decay. Can you fix it?" "I can try, sir, but we don't have spare parts for these systems. This technology is too advanced for field repairs." They worked for weeks to patch the damaged systems, but it was like trying to fix a master artist's painting with children's crayons. The bomb's delicate quantum mechanisms needed perfect conditions to function. Each jury-rig repair made the weapon less reliable. By the time the ship reached Earth's solar system, the bomb was barely functional. Half its systems were running on backup power. The quantum field flickered in and out of stability. The exotic matter core had lost most of its energy. Captain Ziegmer stared at his instruments as Earth appeared on his screens. The blue and green planet looked so peaceful, so innocent. He almost felt sorry for what he was about to do. "Prepare to launch the weapon," he ordered. "Sir," his engineer said quietly, "I'm not sure it will work. The cascade system is too damaged. It might not activate at all." Ziegmer closed his eyes. They had come too far to turn back now. Launch it anyway. Even if it doesn't destroy the planet, it might damage their cities. That's better than nothing. The bomb launched from its tube and drifted toward Earth on silent thrusters. Ziegler watched it go, then ordered his ship to retreat to a safe distance. In a few hours they would know if their mission had succeeded, but the bomb never exploded. As it entered Earth's atmosphere, its failing systems finally gave up completely. The quantum field collapsed, the exotic matter dispersed, and the cascade triggers went dead. What had once been the most powerful weapon in the galaxy became nothing more than an expensive piece of scrap metal. It crashed into the Pacific Ocean with a splash that nobody noticed. 3 days later, a human deep space monitoring station detected unusual energy readings from the crash site. Dr. Sarah Chun, the station's chief scientist, frowned as she studied the data. "That's strange," she said to her colleague. "This looks like technology we've never seen before." Within a week, human salvage ships had pulled the broken device from the ocean floor. It sat in Dr. Chun's laboratory, dripping seawater and mystery, while teams of Earth's best scientists gathered to study humanity's first gift from the stars. Dr. Sarah Chun stood in her laboratory, staring at the strange device that lay on the examination table. The metal sphere was about the size of a small car, covered in patterns that seemed to shift when she wasn't looking directly at them. Water still dripped from its surface, even though it had been out of the ocean for 2 weeks. "Any luck with the scans?" asked Dr. James Rodriguez, her research partner. He carried a cup of coffee in one hand and a tablet full of data in the other. Sarah shook her head. "Every time we try to scan the interior, our instruments go crazy. X-rays bounce back in patterns that shouldn't be possible. The metal doesn't match anything in our periodic table." "Maybe it's not from around here," James said with a grin. Sarah didn't smile back. She had been thinking the same thing, but saying it out loud made it feel too real. "The energy readings are what worry me most. Even broken, this thing is giving off more power than a nuclear reactor." Within days, word of the discovery spread through the scientific community. Experts from around the world arrived at the research facility. Physicists, engineers, materials scientists, and computer specialists all wanted to study the mysterious object. Dr. Yuki Tanaka flew in from Tokyo. She was one of the world's leading experts on quantum mechanics. After spending an hour examining the device, she pulled Sarah aside. "This technology is at least 100 years ahead of anything we have," Yuki whispered. "Maybe more. The quantum field generators alone would revolutionize our understanding of physics." "Quantum field generators?" Sarah asked. Yuki pointed to a section of the sphere where the metal seemed to shimmer. "These patterns aren't just decoration. They're creating fields that bend space around them. I've never seen anything like it." The team worked around the clock to understand the device. They couldn't open it directly because the metal was harder than diamond, but they found ways to study it from the outside. Magnetic resonance imaging showed complex structures inside. Spectral analysis revealed elements that existed only in theory. Dr. Hans Müller, a German engineer, made the first breakthrough. He noticed that some of the surface patterns were actually control interfaces. When he touched them in the right sequence, sections of the sphere became transparent. "Look at this," he called to the others. Through the clear section, they could see incredible machinery. Tiny components moved in perfect harmony, like the inside of a watch built by angels. "It's beautiful," Sarah breathed, but James frowned as he studied the internal structures. "Wait a minute. Look at these connections here." He pointed to a tangle of broken components. "This isn't supposed to look like this." Something went wrong. That's when they realized the device was damaged. Badly damaged, entire systems had failed, power conduits were severed. Control circuits had burned out. Whatever this machine was supposed to do, it couldn't do it anymore. "The question is," Sarah said, "what was it supposed to do?" Dr. Lisa Jiang, a computer scientist from MIT, spent weeks trying to decode the device's programming. The quantum computers inside used principles that human science was just beginning to understand. But slowly, piece by piece, she began to figure out the code. "It's a weapon," she announced during a team meeting. Her face was pale, and her hands shook slightly. "The programming is designed to create a cascade reaction that breaks down atomic bonds. If it had worked, it would have turned everything." It touched into dust. The room fell silent. Everyone stared at the device with new eyes. This wasn't just alien technology. It was an alien weapon sent to destroy Earth. "How close did it come to working?" Sarah asked. Lisa checked her notes. "Based on the damage patterns, I'd say about 70% of the systems failed during its journey here. If even one more critical component had survived, we might not be having this conversation." Despite the frightening discovery, the team continued their research. They couldn't change what the device was meant to do, but they could learn from how it was supposed to do it. And the more they learned, the more excited they became. The weapon used principles of physics that opened up incredible possibilities. The quantum field generators could manipulate matter at the molecular level. The exotic matter core could create energy from nothing. The cascade triggers could start chain reactions in any material. What if we could reverse the process? Dr. Müller suggested during one late-night session. Instead of breaking things apart, what if we could use this technology to build things? Sarah looked up from her calculations. "You mean use a weapon as a construction tool?" "Why not? The same energy that destroys can also create. We just need to figure out how to make it work backwards." The team split into groups, each focusing on a different aspect of the technology. Sarah's group worked on understanding the quantum field generators. James and his team studied the exotic matter core. Dr. Tanaka led the efforts to decode the cascade trigger mechanisms. Progress was slow at first. The alien technology was so far ahead of human science that it was like trying to understand a computer while only knowing how to make fire. But humans had one advantage the aliens might not have expected. They were stubborn. When one approach failed, they tried another. When that failed, they tried a third. They worked 18-hour days, sleeping in the laboratory and eating takeout food. They filled whiteboards with equations, built prototype devices that exploded, and argued about theories late into the night. Dr. Rodriguez made the next major breakthrough. He figured out how to safely extract a small piece of the exotic matter core. It was no bigger than a grain of rice, but it contained more energy than a truck full of gasoline. The aliens made a mistake in their design, he explained to the others. They used a containment field that's too rigid. When the field gets damaged, the whole system fails. But if we use a flexible containment system, he activated his prototype device. The tiny piece of exotic matter glowed brightly, then settled into a steady pulse of energy. The lights in the laboratory dimmed as the matter core began producing electricity. "It's working," Sarah whispered. "We're actually making it work," but their success raised new questions. If they could reverse engineer one alien weapon, what else might be possible? And more importantly, what would happen when the aliens realized their weapon had failed? Dr. Zhang spent months improving the quantum computers inside the device. Human computer technology was crude compared to the alien systems, but it was also more adaptable. Where the alien computers were designed to do one task perfectly, human computers could be reprogrammed to do anything. "I've managed to access the navigation records," she announced one morning. This thing came from a star system about 40 light years away, and according to the flight path data, it was aimed directly at Earth. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. So this was definitely an attack. Someone out there wanted us dead. "The good news," Dr. John continued, "is that their targeting system was designed for one-time use. They probably think their weapon worked. They might not know we're still here." Dr. Tanaka's team made the final breakthrough. They figured out how to not just reverse the cascade trigger, but improve it. Instead of breaking down atomic bonds, their version could strengthen them. Instead of turning matter into dust, it could turn dust into any kind of matter they wanted. "We can build things atom by atom," she explained to the amazed team. "We can create any material, any structure, anything we can imagine." The aliens gave us the power to reshape reality itself. 6 months after the device crashed into the Pacific Ocean, the human team had not only understood the alien technology but made it better. They fixed the design flaws that had caused the original weapon to fail. They improved the efficiency of the power systems. They created new applications the aliens had never dreamed of. Standing in her laboratory, surrounded by prototype devices and successful experiments, Sarah looked at the alien sphere one more time. It no longer seemed threatening. It looked like what it had become, a gift that would change human civilization forever. "Thank you," she said quietly to whoever had sent it. "You have no idea what you've given us." Admiral Kethver sat in his command chair, staring at the empty space where Earth's star system appeared on his screens. 3 years had passed since Captain Ziegmer launched the quantum cascade bomb. 3 years of waiting for confirmation that the human threat had been eliminated. "Sir," Commander Vexta approached carefully, "we're receiving the scheduled sensor sweep data from the outer monitoring stations." Kethver nodded without looking away from the screen. The monitoring stations were automated devices scattered throughout space, designed to watch distant star systems and report back what they observed. The data took months to reach the Zephyrian homeworld, but it was their only way to know what happened in far-off places. "Display the Earth system readings," he ordered. The screen changed to show a collection of energy signatures and spectral analysis data. Kethver expected to see nothing. A dead star system with no planets, no life, no radio signals. Just empty space where the humans used to be. Instead, the readings made no sense at all. "Commander," Kethver said slowly, "these readings show massive energy signatures throughout the Earth system. More than we detected before the weapon was launched." Vexta checked her own instruments, her face growing pale. "Sir, the energy levels are enormous. Whatever is generating these readings would require technology far beyond what the humans possessed." "Perhaps the weapon created some kind of chain reaction," Kethver suggested, though he didn't sound convinced. "The cascade effect might have." ignited their star, or created an unstable quantum field. But even as he spoke, he knew that wasn't right. The energy patterns were too organized, too controlled. They showed the signatures of massive construction projects and industrial activity. This wasn't the chaos of destruction. This was the organized activity of a thriving civilization. Dr. Yelenox burst into the command center without waiting for permission. The elderly scientist's normally perfect appearance was disheveled, and his eyes were wide with panic. "Admiral," he gasped, "you need to see this immediately. The quantum signature analysis from Earth... It's impossible." "What do you mean, impossible?" Kethver demanded. Dr. Yelenox activated a holographic display that showed the detailed energy. "Readings from Earth system? These signatures match quantum cascade technology, but they're not random destruction patterns. They're controlled, refined, purposeful. Someone is using cascade technology for construction." The command center fell silent. Every officer stared at the holographic display, trying to understand what they were seeing. "That's not possible," Kethver said. "Cascade technology can only destroy. The quantum fields are too unstable for any other use." "That's what we thought," Dr. Yelenox replied. "But these readings show stable, controlled cascade reactions. Not only that, but the efficiency levels are 30% higher than our own. Technology. Someone has improved our weapon." Commander Vexta studied the data carefully. "Doctor, could our weapon have somehow survived the journey and been captured intact?" Dr. Yelenox shook his head. "Impossible." The damage reports from Captain Zikmer's final transmission showed that 70% of the weapon systems had failed. Even if the humans found it, they couldn't possibly understand technology that advanced. "Apparently they could," Kethver said grimly. Over the following weeks, more data arrived from the monitoring stations. Each new report made the situation more frightening. The humans weren't just using cascade technology. They were using it better than the Zephyrians ever had: energy. Readings showed massive space construction projects throughout the Earth system. New space stations appeared every few months, each one larger than anything the Zephyrians had ever built. The humans were expanding at an incredible rate, and their technology was advancing faster than anyone thought possible. "How could they learn so quickly?" Dr. Yelenox asked during an emergency science council meeting. "It took our civilization 3,000 years to develop cascade technology. These humans have mastered it in less than a year." Dr. Merville, one of the Empire's leading theorists, offered a disturbing explanation. "Perhaps their approach to science is different from ours. We follow established procedures and protocols. We test everything thoroughly before implementation. Maybe they take more risks, try more experimental approaches." "Reckless experimentation would lead to disasters, not breakthroughs," Dr. Yelenox protested. "Unless," Dr. Merville continued, "their willingness to take risks allows them to discover things we never would. We avoid failure, so we also avoid unexpected success." The discussion was interrupted when an aide rushed into the meeting room. "Doctors, we're receiving a transmission from the edge of our territory. It's from Captain Zikmer's ship." Everyone in the room froze. Captain Zikmer had been missing for over a year, presumed destroyed when his mission ended. "Put it through," Dr. Yelenox ordered. The transmission was weak and full of static, but Captain Zikmer's voice came through clearly. "This is Captain Zikmer requesting immediate assistance. My ship is severely damaged and I have critical intelligence about the Earth mission." 2 days later, Zikmer's battered ship limped into Zephyrian space. The vessel was barely holding together, its hull scarred by weapons fire and radiation damage. Captain Zikmer himself looked like he had aged 10 years in the past 12 months. Admiral Kethver met the captain in the medical bay as soon as the doctors cleared him for debriefing. "Captain," Kethver said, "we need to know what happened. Our sensors show that Earth is still intact, and somehow the humans are using our own technology." Zikmer nodded weakly. "The weapon failed, sir. By the time we reached Earth, most of the systems had broken down. We launched it anyway, but it never exploded. It just crashed into their ocean like a piece of junk." "Then how are they using cascade technology?" They pulled it out of the water and studied it, Zikamura explained. I stayed in the outer system, watching and listening to their communications. Admiral, these humans don't think like us. When they found a broken weapon, they didn't see failure. They saw opportunity. Kethver felt a chill run down his spine. What do you mean? They took our weapon apart and figured out how it worked. But they didn't just copy it, they improved it. Made it better than we ever did? And instead of building more weapons, they used the technology to build cities in space and terraform dead worlds. That's impossible, Kethver said. No species could advance that quickly. Zikamura pulled up images on his portable display. Sir, I managed to record some of their construction projects before I had to retreat. Look at this. The images showed massive space structures that dwarfed anything in the Zephyrian Empire. Space stations the size of small moons orbiting shipyards that could build hundreds of vessels simultaneously, and what looked like entire planets being reshaped and rebuilt. How many ships do they have now? Kethver asked quietly. I stopped counting at 50,000, sir. And they're building more. Every day. Their technology has advanced so far beyond ours that our weapons couldn't even scratch their hulls? Admiral Kethver stared at the images, his mind trying to process the implications. The Zephyrian Empire had ruled this region of space for 3 millennia. They had the best technology, the strongest military, the most advanced science. In their arrogance, they had assumed that no other species could challenge them. Now, in less than 4 years, the humans had not only survived their ultimate weapon, but had used it to surpass Zephyrian technology completely. Sir, Captain Zikamura said quietly, there's something else. Before I left the Earth system, I intercepted one of their diplomatic transmissions. They know the device was a weapon. They know it came from us, and they're sending a message. What kind of message? Zikamura activated another recording. A human voice spoke in accented but clear Zephyrian language. To the builders of the Quantum Cascade device, we thank you for your gift. Your technology has allowed us to advance our civilization beyond our wildest dreams. We would welcome the opportunity to meet you and share what we have learned. Perhaps together we can build something even more wonderful. Admiral Kethver closed his eyes. The humans weren't angry about the attack. They were grateful. They wanted to meet the species that had tried to destroy them and thank them for the opportunity to grow stronger. What do we do now, sir? Commander Vexta asked. Kethver looked at the images of human space stations and ships, at the readings showing technology that surpassed his own empire's greatest achievements. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted completely, and the Zephyrians were no longer on top. We prepare for a very different future, he said. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the observation deck of the human space station Unity Prime, watching the construction crews work on the newest addition to Earth's orbital shipyard. The massive structure stretched for kilometers in every direction, its gleaming hull plates reflecting the light of distant stars. The Zephyrian diplomatic ship just entered our sensor range, reported Lieutenant Commander Jackson from behind her. They're requesting permission to dock. Elena nodded without turning around. She had been expecting this visit for months. Ever since Dr. Chun's team had decoded the alien weapons origin codes, Earth's leaders knew that eventually someone would come looking for their missing bomb. Grant them permission, she said. Assign them Docking Bay 7. And make sure our security teams are ready, but keep them out of sight. We want to appear welcoming, not threatening. Elena had been chosen to lead Earth's first diplomatic contact with an alien species. Because of her unique combination of skills. She was a former military officer who understood strategy and tactics, but she was also trained in linguistics and psychology. Most importantly, she had the kind of calm personality that could handle unexpected situations without panic. As she walked through the corridors of Unity Prime toward the docking bay, Elena thought about how much had changed in the past 2 years. When Dr. Chun's team first reverse-engineered the alien technology, nobody could have predicted how quickly human civilization would advance. The quantum cascade technology had revolutionized everything. Construction projects that should have taken decades were completed in months. Terraforming dead worlds became as simple as pointing the cascade generators at a planet and reshaping its entire surface. Energy was no longer a limiting factor because the exotic matter cores could power entire star systems, but the most important change was in how humans thought about their place in the universe. They were no longer alone, and they were no longer helpless. They had technology that could reshape reality itself, and they had learned to use it not for destruction but for creation. The Zephyrian ship was smaller than Elena had expected. About the size of a human destroyer, but with elegant curves and smooth lines that made it look more like a work of art than a military vessel. As it settled into the docking bay, Elena could see alien faces through the transparent sections of the hull. "Remember," she told her small diplomatic team, "we know this is probably the species that sent the weapon. But we're not here to accuse or threaten. We're here to learn and, if possible, to build a relationship." The airlock opened with a soft hiss, and the first aliens to visit human space stepped through. Elena had seen the recordings from Captain Zekmar's ship, but meeting the Zephyrians in person was still a shock. They were tall and thin, with gray skin and 4 arms. Their eyes were large and dark, and they moved with careful, precise gestures that suggested a very formal culture. The lead alien stepped forward and spoke in slightly accented English. "I am Ambassador Veltar of the Zephyrian Empire. I come, seeking dialogue with the leaders of Earth." "Welcome to Unity Prime," Elena replied in carefully practiced Zephyrian. She had spent weeks learning the basics of their language. "I am Captain Elena Vasquez, representing Earth's United Colonies. We're honored by your visit." Ambassador Veltar's eyes widened slightly at hearing his own language spoken by a human. "You have learned our speech," he said, switching back to Zephyrian. "This is ... expected. We believe understanding begins with communication," Elena replied. "Please allow us to show you our hospitality." The tour of Unity Prime was carefully planned to demonstrate human capabilities without appearing threatening. Elena led the Zephyrian delegation through the agricultural sections, where cascade technology was being used to grow food in previously impossible environments. She showed them the research laboratories where human and alien technologies were being combined in new ways. Finally, she brought them to the observation deck, where they could see the massive construction projects happening throughout the Earth system. Ambassador Veltar stood silently for several minutes, watching human ships move between half-finished space stations and orbital factories. His 3 companions whispered among themselves in a dialect Elena couldn't understand. "This is all built with our technology," Veltar said finally. "The quantum cascade generators, the exotic matter cores. You have taken our weapons and turned them into tools." Elena nodded. "We found your device in our ocean 2 years ago. We studied it, learned from it, and yes, we improved upon it. But we didn't use it to build weapons. We used it to build homes, cities, and a better future for our people." "Why?" Veltar asked. "Why did you not create weapons to strike back at us? You must know that the device was meant to destroy your world." Elena had been expecting this question. "We knew it was a weapon, yes. But we also knew that whoever sent it was probably afraid of us." "You wouldn't have used such an extreme measure unless you saw us as a serious threat. You were expanding too quickly," Veltar said. "Taking too many worlds. Our empire has maintained order in this region of space for 3,000 years. Your rapid growth threatened that order, and now?" Elena asked, "Are you still afraid of us?" Veltar looked out at the construction projects again. "We are terrified," he admitted. "In 2 years, you have surpassed our greatest achievements. Your technology is more advanced than ours. Your ships are faster and stronger. Your population is growing at an incredible rate." Elena felt a moment of sadness for the alien ambassador. She could see the fear and confusion in his large, dark eyes. His entire worldview had been shattered by humanity's rapid advancement. "Ambassador," she said gently, "we don't want to be your enemies. We never did. We're explorers and builders by nature. Yes, we expand quickly, but not to conquer or destroy. We spread out because we're curious about what's out there. Then what do you want from us? Veltar asked. Elena smiled. We want to learn from you. Your civilization is thousands of years old. You must have accumulated incredible knowledge and wisdom. We're barely taking our first steps into the galaxy. We could use good teachers. Veltar exchanged glances with his companions. You want us to teach you? But your technology is already superior to ours? Technology isn't everything, Elena said. You understand galactic politics, alien cultures, the history of this region of space. We know how to build things, but you know how to live among the stars. What would you offer in exchange for such knowledge? Elena had been hoping he would ask that question. Partnership. Access to our technology, but more than that. We've learned to approach problems differently than you do. Where you see obstacles, we see opportunities. Where you see limits, we see challenges to overcome. She gestured toward the window. Look at what we built with your failed weapon. Imagine what we could build together if we were actually trying to cooperate. Ambassador Veltar was quiet for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice was thoughtful. There are other species in this galaxy. Some are hostile. Some are territorial. Your rapid expansion has concerned more than just the Zephyrian Empire. Then help us understand them, Elena said. Teach us the proper protocols, the diplomatic customs, the historical grievances we should avoid. Help us be better neighbors. And, in return, we'll teach you how to think like humans, how to see problems as opportunities, how to turn setbacks into advantages. Elena paused. We'll also share our improvements to cascade technology and anything else we develop. Veltar's four arms moved, and what Elena had learned was a gesture of surprise. You would share your most advanced technology with us, even knowing that we tried to destroy you? That's exactly why we want to share it, Elena said. You sent us that weapon because you were afraid. But fear makes people do terrible things. If we can eliminate the reasons for fear, maybe we can eliminate the terrible things. The ambassador stared out at the human construction projects, watching ships move in perfect coordination to build something beautiful and functional. You truly believe this is possible? That species as different as ours can work together? Elena looked out at Unity Prime, thinking about Dr. Chun and her international team of scientists who had turned an alien weapon into the foundation of a new age. Ambassador, 2 years ago, your people sent us a bomb designed to destroy our entire world. Today, you're standing on a space station that exists because we learned from that bomb. If that's possible, then anything is possible. Veltar made another gesture with his arms, one that Elena recognized as indicating deep thought. I will need to consult with my government, but I believe there is wisdom in your words. Perhaps it is time for the Zephyrian Empire to learn new ways of thinking. We'll be here when you're ready, Elena said. And Ambassador, thank you for the gift. We couldn't have built any of this without it. 6 months after Ambassador Veltar's visit to Unity Prime, the first joint construction project between humans and Zephyrians began. The location was a dead system between their two territories, where 3 lifeless planets orbited a dying star. By the time the project was finished, it would become the most important place in the galaxy. Dr. Sarah Chun stood in the command center of the massive space station that now orbited where the innermost planet used to be. Around her, human and Zephyrian scientists worked side by side, their voices mixing in a dozen different languages as they coordinated the most ambitious terraforming project ever attempted. Status report on planet reconstruction, she called. Out. Cascade generators are running at optimal efficiency, replied Dr. Yelanox, the same Zephyrian scientist who had designed the original weapon. The quantum fields are stable, and we're seeing excellent matter conversion rates. Sarah smiled as she watched the elderly alien scientist. 3 months ago, he had arrived at the station as part of the Zephyrian Scientific Exchange Program. At first, he had been skeptical and somewhat bitter about humans improving his life's work. Now he was one of the most enthusiastic supporters of the joint project. Dr. Chun, called Lieutenant Rodriguez from his station, we're receiving a transmission from the Corvani delegation. They're requesting permission to observe the planetary reconstruction. Sarah nodded. The Corvani were one of 7 alien species that had asked to witness the project. Word had spread throughout the galaxy about the impossible cooperation between humans and Zephyrians. Other civilizations wanted to see for themselves what these 2 species were building together. Grant them permission, Sarah said. Assign them Observation Platform 12. Through the command center's massive windows, Sarah could see the project taking shape. What had once been a dead planet was being rebuilt from the core outward. Cascade technology broke down the old matter and reformed it into something new. Oceans appeared where there had been only rock. Atmospheres formed where there had been only vacuum. Mountains rose and forests grew in fast-forward motion, but this wasn't just terraforming. This was something entirely new. The planet being built would be a shared world designed by both human and Zephyrian architects. Cities that reflected both cultures would rise from the new continents. Different sections of the planet would have different gravities and atmospheres to accommodate various species. Dr. Chun, Dr. Yellowknox approached her station. I wanted to thank you again for including me in this project. When I first learned that humans had reverse-engineered my weapon, I was angry. I felt that my life's work had been stolen and perverted. And now? Sarah asked. The old scientist's forearms moved in a gesture of wonder. Now I understand that my life's work was never completed until you found it. I created a tool for destruction, but you showed me how to make it a tool for creation. You gave my invention a purpose I never dreamed of. Admiral Kethver walked onto the command center, his military uniform replaced by the simple work clothes that had become standard on the station. The proud Zephyrian officer had changed dramatically over the past 6 months. Working alongside humans had taught him to value collaboration over hierarchy, innovation over tradition. Sarah, he said, using the informal human custom of first names, we just received word from the Zephyrian High Council. They've approved the expansion proposal. Sarah felt a surge of excitement. The expansion proposal was ambitious even by human standards. Instead of just rebuilding one dead system, they wanted to create a network of shared worlds throughout the galaxy. Each system would be a collaboration between different species, combining their unique knowledge and abilities to create something none of them could achieve alone. What about the other species? Sarah asked. Have any of them committed to joining the network? Kethver's expression brightened. The Corvani have agreed to contribute their knowledge of atmospheric engineering. The Daleks want to share their expertise in deep space agriculture. Even the Hegemony has expressed interest in participating. The Hegemony was a collection of militaristic species that had been at war with the Zephyrian Empire for over a century. If they were willing to join a cooperative project, it meant the old patterns of galactic politics were truly changing. Captain. Elena Vasquez entered the command center, still wearing her diplomatic uniform. She had been in meetings all day with representatives from various alien governments, negotiating the terms of the expanded cooperation agreement. How did the negotiations go? Sarah asked. Elena's tired face broke into a grin. Better than we hoped. 17 species have agreed to join the network. They're calling it the Galactic Construction Alliance. And the holdouts? Kethver inquired. 3 species are still concerned about sharing their technology, but they're willing to observe for now. 2 others want to join but need more time to convince their governments. Elena paused. And 1 species has demanded that humans be expelled from the galaxy entirely. Sarah sighed. They had known that not everyone would welcome the changes humans had brought to galactic politics. Some species preferred the old ways, where power was maintained through fear and competition rather than cooperation and innovation. The Zentari Collective? Kethver guessed. Elena nodded. They claim that human expansion threatens the natural order of the galaxy. They've demanded that all human colonies be abandoned and that Earth be quarantined. What did you tell them? Sarah asked. I invited them to visit one of our construction sites and see what we're actually building, Elena said. If they still want to fight after seeing what cooperation can accomplish, then we'll deal with that when it happens. Dr. Yellonox looked worried. The Zentari are not known for changing their minds. They have a powerful military and little interest in compromise. Then we'll have to hope that what we're building here is impressive enough to change their perspective. Sarah said. As if summoned by their conversation, alerts began chiming throughout the command center. A new ship had just entered the system, broadcasting Zentari identification codes. This should be interesting, Elena muttered. The Zentari delegation that docked at the station was led by war leader Thaxon, a massive alien covered in natural armor plating. His species had evolved from predators, and they maintained their aggressive culture even after reaching the stars. Thaxon's small red eyes scanned the station's corridors with obvious suspicion as Elena led him toward the observation. You have built much, Thaxon said in heavily accented Standard Galactic. But building is not the same as conquering. We're not trying to conquer anything, Elena replied calmly. We're trying to create something better. When they reached the observation deck, Thaxon stopped in shock. Below them, the reconstructed planet turned slowly in space, its new continents green with growing forests and blue with fresh oceans. Ships from a dozen different species moved in coordinated patterns, working together to add the finishing touches to floating cities and orbital platforms. This planet was dead 3 months ago, Elena explained. Now it will support millions of people from dozens of different species. And this is just the first. We're planning to build 100 more worlds like this one. Thaxon stared at the planet for a long time. Why? He asked finally. Because we can, Elena said simply. Because when different species work together, they can accomplish things that none of them could do alone. Because cooperation is more powerful than competition. The Zentari do not cooperate, Thaxon said firmly. We take what we need and defend what is ours, Elena nodded. And how has that worked out for your people? How many worlds has the Zentari collective gained in the past century? How much has your technology advanced? How much have your people's lives improved? Thaxon's armored face showed no emotion, but Elena could see uncertainty in his small red eyes. Now look at what we've accomplished in just 2 years, Elena continued. Not through conquest or domination, but through cooperation and innovation. We took a weapon meant to destroy us and turned it into a tool for creation. We turned enemies into allies and competition into collaboration. War leader Thaxon continued staring at the planet below. Ships from species that had been enemies for centuries worked side by side, building something beautiful and functional together. You offer this to the Zentari? He asked. Partnership in your construction network? We offer it to everyone. Elena said, the galaxy is big enough for all of us. There are thousands of dead systems that could be turned into gardens. Millions of worlds that could support life. We don't need to fight over resources when we can create new ones. Thaxon was quiet for several more minutes. When he spoke again, his voice was thoughtful rather than aggressive. I will need to discuss this with the collective council. We are not accustomed to ... cooperation. Take all the time you need, Elena said. But remember, every day you spend deciding is another day we spend building. The galaxy is changing? War leader. The only question is whether the Zentari want to be part of that change or be left behind by it. As Thaxon's ship departed the system, Sarah stood beside Elena on the observation deck, watching the continued construction work on the planet below. Do you think he'll convince his people to join us? Sarah asked.